I'd like to call to order the council meeting for Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. If we could all please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Olivia Brady, Valerie Scott Cooper, Hakeem Jones, Heather Lewis, Suann Gardner, Derek Perry, Sonia Sanders.
Here. Would a member of council like to make a motion to approve the workshop minutes from August 15th of 2017?
Second.
All in favor? The ayes have it. The meeting minutes are approved. Earlier this evening, we did not have an executive session. We'll proceed with the presentations.
Just go ahead. All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. First of all, good evening to all of our friends in Norristown and esteemed council members, President Crandall, Michael Coates, everyone here, and fellow Norristonians. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity tonight to share information on an event that we'd like to have in October, which will be sponsored by Five Saints Distilling and International Spirits, LLC, in association with World Cafe Live down in Philadelphia on Walnut Street. And you probably have all heard of the World Cafe Live. I've never been there personally, but they're a great bunch of folks, and they're really well recognized in terms of entertainment and events. And what we like to do is to host the first Norristown annual Oktoberfest and Block Party. So what I'd like to do with this presentation, and please feel free to ask questions at any point, is to share the vision that we have for this event, go through some of the specifics and details, share some of the assorted musical guests that we're already chatting with and going to invite, and then talk about some of the next steps, at least as I see them, and some of the things we've already done. But anytime, please, already feel free. Now, we have already met with Tom and Mark. I don't think you were there. Tommy, were any of the police department at the meeting that we had? It was okay. Lieutenant was there. You're right, exactly. So this is a meeting where we wanted to share this with you and get your endorsement. So with that being said, let me take you through our vision. So obviously you all are familiar with the Humane Fire Engine Company, and on the left is, the historical view, and on the right is a very up-to-date with our new signs, which I don't know if everyone see them. the Five Saints Distilling on one side, and then Firehouse Kitchen number 1 on the other side with our new swan lamps, which really lights that front up beautifully. Very proud of it. Every time I look at it, I get little chills up and down my spine, so really kind of cool. But that's going to be a center point of this event. The vision is to have a neighborhood festival on Main Street between Green Street and DeKalb, where Norristown citizens, neighbors, vendors can get together to, as we say, relax, connect, enjoy, and savor quality local music, food, beer, wine, spirits, and friendship. And I think the key word there is local, because this is a Norristown event. We want to highlight Norristown food vendors, Norristown musicians, the Humane Association, as you'll see a little bit later, and to really demonstrate a show of basically a neighborhood friendship. Here's an example. These folks came in. I think this was last Saturday. A mixed bunch, and somehow they got me to get down there and get in a photo with them. But we have a lot of fun, and hopefully this event is going to be a lot of fun as well. Now, Saturday, October 14th is the date. We propose the time to be between noon and 11. That would be the actual operation of the block party. We start a little earlier to set up, get some tents up and different things that I'll describe in a moment. The location, 129 East, that should be a Main Street, and East Main Street between Green and DeKalb, and we would be looking to close that off, to close that whole portion of East Main Street off. Coordinating, Five Saints Distilling, myself, and I also have Mark and Joan here who will be helping me reach out to coordinate with the local Norristown vendors and what have you. Working closely with World Cafe Live, Lisa Margraff, who's a manager down there. They're very excited about this event. And then the Municipality of Norristown, obviously we're going to need your help and endorsement. And I will say that the World Cafe Live is very excited about this. They were thinking of having it in a different spot, and I basically corralled them and convinced them that Norristown is where they want to be with this type of event. So they're in it. What will we provide? So Five Saints Distilling, spirits, soft drinks, food, beer, water. World Cafe Live will provide a beer garden. They have a liquor license that allows them to have a beer garden. They've already described it that they will set up a tented area, 10 by 20 foot. They will supply tenders. They've done this before in Wilmington and other areas. They serve canned beer, which will go into plastic cups. They can only do it for a 5-hour duration. So right now you see noon to 5, but that could be 1 to 6 to be determined. Their liquor license is secured. Now both of us, Five Saints Distilling World Cafe, we will recruit musical guests, and I've proposed most of them will come from Norristown, and we have an abundance of great musicians from Norristown. We will take care of the social media engagement. World Cafe Live alone has over 150,000 on their list that they can outreach quickly, and they're ready to pull the trigger on that. So that's to make this a huge success. The other important part, obviously, is food stations. And here you see Main Street spelled correctly. So just some of the examples, Five Saints Firehouse Kitchen number 1. So we'll serve some of our own food, maybe under a tent. We'll cook it under there, what have you. I've already approached the vendors actually on East Main Street, right in our block, the China House, the Tacos Pueblo restaurant, and the Los Barajas Market, who serve some great tamales. I don't know if you've had any of theirs, but they're excellent. Going to approach others, Zachary's Barbecue, Sasanos. They got a great pulled pork sandwich. Via Veneto Ice, Corporalese Tomato Pie, and if you guys can think of others, more than happy to invite them. And what we would envision is that they get a piece of turf on the street, on the side of the street, where they can set up a tent and a vending station so that if people want to stop and they want some water ice or barbecue, they can have that. They would have to show proof of insurance when they go on these types of events, so we would request that from them. We are going to ask them to have to provide a fee of, I'm saying $150. It could be a little bit less to cover the music. Now, many of the musicians are donating their time, but there are some who want to get paid, so we want to come up with that. And then the hours I've proposed, and this is up for debate, as long as the vendor wishes. So they could serve their food from noon until 11 at night, although I'm not sure how many people are hungry that late in the evening. I don't know if you guys know, anybody know who this guy is? Our one and only Lenny Martelli, Nashville recording artist. Great guy. He was just down Saturday night, gave a heck of a musical performance. I should have my Lenny Martelli shirt on. We swapped shirts. He promised us to do the 5 Saints shirts. I do Lenny Martelli. But I put this up there because who are we thinking of inviting? Well, Wildflower. Everybody knows Wildflower. Carmen Tornambe, Lenny Martelli, Danielle and Jennifer, local duo, sister duo. Coupe de Ville, who, I don't know if anybody's heard Coupe de Ville, fantastic band. Pat's Run, guys that we've had, very big following, then Ken Pearson as well. So the location of music would be on 2 locations. One would be outside, on the street, under a tent, that we're going to ask our party rental facility just down the road to donate. And I think they'll be happy to do that. And then also inside 5 Saints. And the thinking is that we'll put the bigger bands on earlier, so that when, as it gets later on in the evening, more of the single groups, the single acoustics, Danielle and Jennifer, Pat's Run, we can bring them inside 5 Saints and keep them there so that we keep the noise level down to something that is respectful of our neighbors. We're also going to donate, funds, but we want to invite the Finding Shelter Animal Rescue, which is a Norristown animal rescue. I propose noon to 5. They can stay longer if they want. We'll donate a percentage of the sales to the Finding Shelter Animal Rescue, and we propose that they be in right alongside our building there, where we have our egress between the grass strip and our building. We've done that with them before. It's been very successful. Hopefully we'll get some dogs and cats adopted that day as well. So next steps. I've actually gotten the sign-off by our neighbors, so I have that form with me. Recruiting musical guests. As I mentioned, 5 Saints Distilling and World Cafe Live. Setting up, running, and taking down the beer garden. That's World Cafe Live. They've done it many times. They know what they're doing, and they'll start early. They'll put it up. They'll run it for 5 hours, and then take it down, make sure everything's clean, etc. We need help in shutting off East Main between DeKalb and Green, and obviously we want to do that probably earlier so that we could get these tents set up and functional, and then taken down as soon as possible after the event. Patrol visitation. We love our Norristown Police Department. Mark, you guys are fantastic, and we would ask that you be an integral part and at least have somebody patrolling and visiting, and also coming to eat some food and drink some soda and water. Recruit the food vendors. So that'll be our responsibility. I'm going to look to Mark and Joan to help out with that, as well as other things. And I mentioned advertising on social media. We haven't reached out. We haven't started advertising this because I wanted to make sure that we got the endorsement of our council here. But once that's done, we will start to reach out and make sure that folks know about this. Also, very importantly, we're a member of Norristown, and we want to donate a hefty percentage of our profits from this festival to the Norristown Police Department. So, Mark, I hope that'll be okay with you, and we're going to ask other vendors to do the same. So, we're a member of the community, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the community. Later on in the year, we're going to do something for the fire department, and Tommy and I have already discussed that, so more to come on that one. So, that's what I have. Thank you, and I'll be happy to take any questions and comments. So, yeah.
There we go. How firm is the date?
Very firm, because World Cafe Live, that's the only date they had that they could do it.
Okay, because that day, the Norristown Car Show is on Main Street.
October 14th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same date? Mm-hmm. Then let's make it a great big event. Yeah, instead of cars being in front of I think that's terrific, actually. I think that plays into it nicely, as long as they don't mind.
We just would have to figure out, the car show benefits the recreation department. So is your event going to detract from the opportunity for them to have, their, I don't want to say income, but their, what they're going to bring in?
Well, we can take a look and see what vendors they already have coming, and if ours are in addition to that, we could, defer those to the police department. I think Five Saints would, we were there last year with the car show. I don't think we donated. We'd still like to donate to the police, and at least the World Cafe Live, I think, would do the same. I think we can work that out.
Okay, you may want to reach out to Bill Plickton down in Parks and Rec.
But that is the same date, October 14th,
it is the
Saturday,
same
because I thought it was a
date,
week
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we can work together and it'd be a great event. That's a big event. Great. Olivia? Yeah.
I'd have to find out. I can't tell you right off the top of my head whether that would be the case or not.
You might want to add that as an item that we'll check on to make sure. If they're actually bringing animals to adopt, or there's something special requirement that's needed.
All I can share is that we've already done one of these events with them where they were actually inside our building. And I think when they say bring animals, they bring like 2 dogs and a cat or something like that. It's not like 10 or 20 animals. But as easily we can check with Finding Shelter and just say that concern was brought up, and is it an issue, and if it is, how do we handle it?
I mean, it's one thing if it's inside, but if they're going to be outside, that could get a different light. Maybe they're going to come with a solution, but it's just make sure it's inside.
Yeah, or maybe we can fence it off somehow, put some kind of boundary type material that'll put a boundary around where the animals are, etc. So,
Councilwoman Lewis.
Heather.
Oh, there we go. I think it's a great opportunity to be on the same day as the car show, because there are things that you were bringing to the table that weren't at the car show. So I would definitely connect with the organizers of the car show and kind of coordinate that so that it can be a spectacular event, because I'm really excited that the car show was actually on that day, because I'm like, this is great. For folks that have ideas, who should we send? Any potential vendors, any potential musicians? Should we send them to you, or is there a
Send them to me. Yep,
Oktoberfest at info, or is it just to Five Saints?
Yeah, send them to me. Yep, John at Five Saints Distilling, or I can give you my cell phone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I think we'll get the name of the contact for the car show right there. We can reach out to. Yeah.
Okay, Councilwoman Gardner, if you could supply with that contact information. So being as though it is an Oktoberfest, John, I believe you're looking for council to make a motion this evening?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have your endorsement, your approval, if you will. I don't know whether we need your approval, but I would like your approval.
So I think I think from what I'm hearing is that we would like to have the car show and the Oktoberfest, as long as there's coordination with Bill Plickton from the Norristown Recreation Department. Would a member of council like to make a motion to approve Five Saints Distillery and World Cafe Live to host a fall music festival on October 14th of 2017?
So I went to see if I could just make a comment real quick. I would suggest we hold off on a vote, because it's not just the recreation department that runs it. There's also I don't know the name of the organization, I forget. I'm drawing a blank on it right now. That is part of it as well. So it doesn't just involve the rec department and the municipality. It involves another group that comes in and runs it as well, and who donates their proceeds back.
To North. Mr. Solicitor.
Madam President, Mr. Jones brought up, the Municipal Administrator brought up some good points. Maybe rather than just blanket approval, a motion to direct staff to help facilitate moving this forward.
I like that better.
And that could allow some additional coordination behind the scenes and any additional action. He talked about the food truck ordinance. I was thinking about waivers of liability. So there's a couple of things we need to work out, but it's showing clear intent that we want to direct staff to work with Five Saints and trying to move this forward if possible. So.
Councilman Jones.
I just wanted to weigh in on the event also. I think it's a great idea to not combine the events, but you're having two large-scale events on Main Street. The last large main event we had was the Heroes Run. So I do see a span from Green Street clear up to Green Street clear up to Cherry Street that may just be full with people. And if we could communicate to some of the folks from Five Saints about the car show, maybe some of those people do have cars that they might want to enter, and they could probably knock two things out. Hopefully they're not driving, but they can kill two birds with one stone. But I think we could work together and just have a full-flown event on our Main Street, and maybe the folks from Five Saints could still partner and help out the car show.
Yeah, I would just add, I think we can blend in to the car show. I see that whole stretch shut off. If I remember last year, there were musical groups. There was a DJ in front of our place who borrows our electricity, and then went down further. So this is really just a supplement to it, like it will add to it. And I would say that one of the groups we're going to invite is Coupe de Ville. So, I mean, it's car show, Coupe de Ville, that'll go pretty well together.
Councilwoman Brady.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, as Don mentioned, the car show's already blocked off from Cherry Street to Green Street anyway, so the amount in front of Five Saints would be included in that, and if everybody works together and there's adjustments to make for the cars to only come down to DeKalb Street and so forth, and I think that could be done. So, I mean, I like the amendment to the motion to direct staff to work with Five Saints and all parties involved with both events to make sure that they can be combined.
Thank you. All in favor? Any nays? The ayes have it, and that motion is approved.
I want to thank all of you. Very much appreciated, as always. Thank you all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Vice President Perry, do we have any announcements this evening?
Yes. Saturday, September 9th, we have Oktoberfest at Elmwood Park Zoo. This is between 1 and 4 p.m. You would have to acquire tickets from the zoo. Sunday, September 10th, we have Music for Kids' Sake concert, which is between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at Elmwood Park. It is hosted by Expressive Path, and it is a free event. The September 14th final council listening tour is postponed until another date. And we have Friday, September 15th, which is game night, First Presbyterian Church on Airy Street, which is hosted by the Norristown Recreation. Game night between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Any other council members have any announcements? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Vice President Perry. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments this evening?
Yes, we do. Jim Perna.
Hi. Three things. One, I wanted to find out more on the old Montgomery Hospital, if anybody wants to comment on that. And the other, Logan Square, the Royal Farms. I don't want to, we were told about the studio, movie theater, and it never got built, so I hope this don't happen like that. I know they're knocking that down. What else is... And the third thing I want to know, kind of a pet peeve of mine, when, I think it's been 2 years since Markley Street project, when are they coming to finish from the lower half of Elm down to the main? Because when they did that, they took away my parking, 241, 239, 237. We lost our parking. When I bought the house in 1985, I was told off-street parking. For 30 years, I had a parking. Now, all of a sudden, they put a center turning lane to the left. You can't park on either side between Markley and Juniper. So we lost like 8 parking spots there on each side. So it's my neighbor's husband just passed away. She's 70. you go to the grocery store, you got to carry your stuff. I told one of the police, I just put my flashing lights on and unload my stuff. The cars can go around me. So there are the three things just to get updates on the Old Montgomery Hospital, the Royal Farms, and when the completion of that. Because from what I get here, I kept asking down here, well, Jim, if we get them back, maybe we can get them up there to put like the cutouts they did for Markley Street residents who have parking in the back of their houses. Our situation, we're landlocked. There's an alley that runs behind. I don't know if you can get together PennDOT, whatever, and try to get something. I can use my backyard as a driveway, or I don't know what, something got to be, help me out.
Okay, so what I'll have you do, sir, is link up with Ms. Moussagne in regards to the planning of the projects that are approved. And unfortunately, Mr. Odembo is not here this evening, so I will assist you in following up with that item as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim Waters.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
The front of the building looks great. The new paint. Norristown's really looking good. I see more line painting in the roads, and I think that's really good. That really shows the town off. Simple thing, paint. It helps to find parking spaces on Marshall Street. I had talked about that years ago. Another thing that I want to talk about is the proposal I'd like to make to bring a triathlon to Norristown. Riverfront Park is being cleaned up. West Norton Township Public Works is getting rid of the weeds, so things will be improving on the river. And I'd like to share this with the rest of the council. I had sent Madam President a promo that was done by Boston Triathlon Mayor, and also a brief review of John Kenny, who's the founder and director. He's been running triathlons up at French Creek Park, I think, for 5 or 6 years. Don't hold me to that. But I volunteered for the first time ever seeing one of these triathlon things, and they're fantastic. They're family-oriented. Saturday is for the children. And I did put out a letter that the Times Herald didn't print, but it boiled down to what sticks in my mind is a giant man running next to his daughter on a little pink, I think she was like 6 or 7 years old, bicycle with training wheels on it, with the greatest smile on his face. I mean, they had just come out of swimming, and he was, swimming with her to make sure, and then he followed her whole through, but she was the youngest one. And it just gives me goosebumps thinking back about it and how it would be so neat having the riverfront park, the bike path, and the promo that I sent Madam President shows the John Kenny going up this murderous hill. And we've got some murderous hills around here. I don't know, but I'd like to further bring information to you all. And if it was okay, excuse me, with Madam President, I'd like to send that promos to the rest of council if you feel that it would be good.
So, Mr. Waters, what I would have you do is send it to Gabriella Preet, who's our PR person, and then from there, Gabriella would be able to disseminate it to the council members.
Great. Wonderful. There's a group forming that has issues with taxes. A small group met with Dr. Samuels and the financial person, and we've gotten some interesting information about state funding, and I believe I can tie this together with the reason that the juvenile court has asked to enlarge the parking lot in West Norton Township. The juvenile court is really busy, and I'm going to be looking for a graph that shows the opposite of how the funding from the state went from 54% down to 10%, and I want to find this graph that shows juvenile delinquency going up the other way. I'd like to prove that. Now, I'm sharing a concept with you all to settle this problem with the funding of the schools that's been going on for ages. My wife Lynn and I were on the Act 1 Commission, and we learned out what the problems were. And I can go on and on about it. I just want to let you know that there's a group of Norristown people that are going to be getting to the root of that. The other thing was the power grid. I had filed formal complaints with the PUC with respect to incomplete work done by PECO. Some of you may remember 2008 when I started on this, but I managed to get through to a court battle, and PECO had it dismissed, but then an oversight judge found it and reinstituted it. PECO tried to say because it didn't affect me personally that I had no standing, and I argued that I have a standing to be concerned about a public safety issue, especially if my career had to do with understanding the power grid and the dangers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't know how many people know Tommy Hetrick was killed on the job. Basically, this is a memorial to him. So that is moving forward. It's, you know, it was really great to get this certified letter saying it was moving forward. But I see you guys are putting all new electric in. I don't know how that worked. You know, I really believe that that's going to have a lot to do with economic development. The other thing that I've been documenting for years is the flooding of the sewer plant, and I have some documentation that I'll bring forward. I want the money paid. I want FEMA to pay for the damage to the sewer plant that they caused in 06 and in 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Jay Santiago.
Sorry, it's the first time with this microphone, so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm here for the property at 1034 Cherry Street.
I'm sorry, could you please speak up? And what was the address again?
1034 Cherry. So I originally came here for the heart meeting, I believe it was last month, in reference to the porch roof in front of the house. So the porch roof was collapsing and is tenant occupied. Unfortunately, we had to take the porch roof down because it almost fell in front of, like on top of the kid, like one of the kids that lived there. So we just wanted it to put the porch roof back up. That's basically the application that I put in.
So if I heard you correctly, you already put the application in?
Yes.
To have the roof installed?
Yeah, I did come for the meeting. There was no opposition to it, but I was told to come here tonight for the approval.
Mr. Simonson, do you have any awareness of?
Yeah, Mike Simonson. I don't know why it is on our agenda for tonight, 1034 Cherry Street, and it is approved by the HARB. So maybe what they meant to tell you was you'll get your final approval tonight once council votes on it.
Okay.
Because you're approved, the application was received to demolish and rebuild the front porch, roof, columns, railing, and guard system. Is that what you applied for?
Yes.
Okay, we just didn't get to that part in the meeting yet, but when we do, it's set for council to approve it, and then you'll be granted your approval.
Okay, so I just wait for the end of the
Yeah,
okay.
it'll be coming up.
All right, thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is there any communication this evening?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Next order of business we have is finance, and we have a couple items from Ms. Burkett.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, what I'd like to do is a couple presentations. One First one would be regarding the request for proposal that was issued by the municipality for banking services and the recommendations of staff. So, excuse me, the municipality issued a request for proposal for banking services on June 22nd, 2017, and the submission deadline was extended until July 17th, 2017. The RFP was published on the municipal website. It was also advertised in the local newspaper. Copies were sent to local banking institutions that expressed an interest in participating. Copies were also provided upon request from banking institutions when they contacted the municipality through the info@norristown.gov website, email. The municipality received 9 responses from banks in the immediate area. All have branches with the exception of 2 within a 5-mile radius of the municipality. Based on a review of the submissions and based on the qualifications that were established, which included legal and other qualifications, completeness of the proposal, financial strength and capacity of the banking institutions, availability of services both basic and optional, lowest cost to the municipality, experience in providing services to similar accounts, locations of proposers' banking branches, and commitment to serving the community within the municipality of Norristown, which includes employees, residents, employers, vendors, and other entities within the municipality of Norristown. 4 banks were selected for follow-up interviews. Those banks were TD Bank, Citizens Bank, Santander, and BB&T. Based on the evaluations of the evaluation team, TD scored the highest score with an 89.5, Citizens came in second, BB&T came in third, and Santander came in fourth. These scores were based on the criteria that were explained earlier and were also based on follow-up interviews and conversations with the representatives of the banking institutions. The evaluation team would like to make a recommendation to Municipal Council that TD is selected to provide general operating banking services based on the following: proposal content and oral presentation, cost of services, additional products and services available, and responsiveness to inquiries. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Take action this evening, or this is informational purposes?
This is actually a recommendation for council to accept the recommendation of the evaluation team to select TD and start to move forward in the process of engaging them as our banking institution.
I just had a question. There currently isn't a TD bank in the municipality of Norristown, so I was just curious to know how other banks like Wells Fargo and there's not a Bank of America either, but just curious to know how the other banks fared regarding in relation to TD Bank.
Absolutely. The submission by Wells Fargo, and we also received a submission by Citizens Bank, both which have branches in the municipality. Wells Fargo, based on the pro forma, which is the cost evaluation, was one of the higher banks that submitted services, and they also didn't have some of the services that we were looking for as far as relationship with our armored car service. Citizens, while they were very active and they were engaging and they provided us with a lot of information, TD's cost proposal actually was better than that bank. Welcome.
And also note that
I did. Oh.
Okay, Council, we should also note that our current bank is Bank of America, and Bank of America has a policy that they do not actually visit with their local customers. And so we did receive a proposal for them for your information, but their service delivery hadn't been such that we really wanted to seriously consider them in this solicitation.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Councilwoman Brady?
Thank you. Is there a possibility that we could
ask TD Bank to open a branch here in the municipality?
As part of the discussions with TD Bank, we did engage in the Community and Reinvestment Act, and that would be something that we would want to consider as part of the discussion platform for that. One of the things that they are offering that we did inquire about from all of the banking institutions was the possibility of installing an ATM machine in the municipality. And they were the ones that came back with an offer that we would be able to work with them to see how we would do that.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Lewis?
I'm just curious, what's the balance that will be going into TD Bank? What's their benefit?
Our average balance on the rolling 12-month average is about $9 million. And just for informational purposes, our balance ranges from 20 million to about 5 million, depending on components of the year, and that has been in place with our banking relationship with TD Bank. With Bank of America, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Burkett. Vice President Perry?
The only question I have is, how does this look with the capital improvement plan and banking with TD Bank? Because I know we're doing something else with the capital improvement with a different bank, correct?
Correct. Our funding for the capital improvement plan, which was a general obligation note, is actually being managed by QNB Bank, and while they were invited to participate in this process because of, one, their location, and because we have the current relationship, they felt that right now they wanted to continue with that relationship. That would still be maintained separately from TD Bank. That's not part of our operating account structure.
Thank you, Ms. Burkett. Would a member of council like to make a motion that TD Bank be selected to provide general operation banking services for the municipality of Norristown? All in favor? Any nays? Hearing none, the ayes have it, and that motion is approved.
Thank you, Council. The next presentation is in regard to the 2016 financial statement audit report. The municipality received the report and it was presented to council by our municipal auditors, and what I am seeking this evening is approval to accept the audit report submitted by our auditors, Malley, for the 2016 financial statement period. For the municipality, for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2016, is the period that is covered by the report. The report that was delivered by Malley, our auditors for the municipality, was an unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion that you can get in their circumstances. There are several levels of examination that is required and requirements that you must meet in order to receive that qualification. And the municipality did again this year, as they have for the past several years. The auditor's report for the single audit, which is the federal funds, the schedule of federal awards that the municipality receives and expends through the various programs that are funded. We received an unmodified report this year, which is also in the same level as unqualified opinion, and all prior year findings that have been in existence have been resolved and are removed from our report. So we have an especially clean report this year, I'm glad to say. The financial statements actually cover a couple of different components, and I just wanted to give a short description of those basic financial statement components. There are the government-wide financial statements, which provide a broad overview of the municipality's overall financial status, both short-term and long-term. Those statements include all assets of the municipality and any component units, which the component unit for the municipality happens to be the Norristown Municipal Waste Authority, and those are presented in conjunction with their financial statements and combined as an overall financial statement. We also have the fund financial statements, which are groupings of related accounts used to maintain control and accountability over resources that have been segregated for specific activities and objectives. The notes to the financial statement provide supplemental information that is essential to full understanding of the data provided in the government-wide and fund financial statements. And then there's also a budgetary comparison schedule that provides the general fund demonstration of compliance with the authorized budget. For 2016, I'm just showing a brief graph of our assets, deferred pension inflows, which are combined with the assets, total liabilities, deferred inflows for pensions, and the net position. For 2016, our total assets were $37,988,514. For the deferred outflows of pensions for 2015, this was recently enacted as an additional component to present the activity related to the pension that would be happening in future years, either as an outflow or as an inflow, so coming in or going out, expenditures or revenue generation. That balance for 2016 is $2,834,148. Total liabilities are $35,982,369. Similar, the deferred inflows from pension is $1,330,584. So our net position was $3,509,709,000. Going over the significant obligations or components of our financial statement that are not related to capital assets, it's primarily the liability, which is our debt platform. And what this particular schedule shows is the initial borrowing, our outstanding balance as of 2016, December 31st. So we have $14,448,939,000 of outstanding debt obligation. The addition this year was for the emergency radio equipment purchase that we purchased through the county for the Motorola radios for both police and fire. And we paid off $3,215,534 in principal payments on our debt this year. And we've continued to make those same and similar payments every year, bringing down our debt platform. The net pension liability, as I discussed, is the components that are related to the pension plan obligations of the municipality for the collective bargaining units and for the employees of the municipality. The total net pension liability, which means the amount that we have outstanding that would be the difference between the present value of the benefit payments if we had to pay them today and the assets that we have set aside to fund those payments. So we would have a deficit of $15 million. This was added as an additional component to the governmental financial statements to more fully advise the readers of what the overall obligations, both in cash and in other obligations that are non-cash or not presently due, so that they can fully understand what our financial statement position is. For the police department, we have a net pension liability of $14,674,261,000. Of that, we currently have in hand 63.1% of our assets available to pay that outstanding liability. For our, for our fire department, it's $3,282,181. So we have 74% of our assets available to fund pension liabilities. PMRS, which is the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Plan, is actually overfunded at this point. So they have a surplus of about $2 million available. So they are 133.61% funded. Overall, these numbers get added together to net to what the overall financial statement pension liability is for the municipality. For the financial fund statements, we have several major funds. They include the general fund, the liquid fuels fund, the debt service fund, the community development fund, and capital project fund. They're all pretty much self-explanatory as their name implies. The liquid fuels fund, just to be give a little more detail, is related to the motor vehicle fund and the gas tax distribution that we receive to do approved road, highway, and maintenance projects. The financial outlay for the revenue that was generated in these funds for 2016 is displayed for you and goes through and identifies the general fund. Where the primary activity is for the revenues, it's primarily property taxes and local enabling taxes. And then the other categories that are described for the other funds. For the expenditures, primary expenditure is related to the public service and general government fund, and in those are the cost of public service, and in general fund, it's the cost of administration plus the additional administrative support costs for health insurance and things of that nature. And overall, as I said, at the end of the year, we still maintain a $10 million fund balance for the financials, and we also received the unqualified opinion for the audit for this year. There were no differences with the auditor. I believe during the presentation that was given to council, they went over any significant accounting policies, any significant accounting estimates, any difficulties encountered during the audit, any uncorrected or corrected misstatements, and any disagreements with management. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation. The request is for council to consider acceptance of the 2016 audited financial statements. Upon Municipal Council's approval, the audit reports will be dispersed, and a copy will also be made available on the website.
Thank you, Ms. Burkett. And council, any questions? Councilwoman Scott? Cooper.
Ms. Burkett, can you just give us a couple of examples of the local enabling taxes? Okay, thank you.
And associates for us. It is a collection that is a calendar. It occurs all calendar year long. Returns are due in June of the year, usually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other Councilman Jones?
Shanora, what are some of the items that are covered under the community development grant for $923,000?
That is the funds that are expended out of the community development block grant funds, and they are based, the expenditure report is based on the activity year, not necessarily the grant year, because I believe the grant year goes from March 1st to February 28th, whereas our fiscal year goes from January to December, so it's incorporating the expenditures for those items that are associated with the budget that happened during that period. I believe Jane, if she wouldn't mind giving some details on what's budgeted for those items that cover those expenditures.
Certainly. I just want to clarify as well, in as much as the year for the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant is from March to February, it's actually accumulation of all the unspent years of previous years of the CDBG. So you're given an extended time to spend your funds. So when you really look at it, you have several years that you're spending in that particular fiscal year. It includes typically the housing program, like the owner-occupied housing, first-time home buyers. It includes Simmons Park, includes the Small Business Development Center, includes the Main Street Economic Development Project. It also includes the fair housing services that we receive. I think I've named almost all of them at this point.
Vice President Perry.
With this being done, where does this put Norristown financially?
This is a continued fiduciary responsibility for the management, for the administration of the municipality. We are in compliance with our debt covenants, and we're also in compliance with the single audit filing that is required that has a 270-day timeline, which would fall sometime in September. It has been the consistent goal of my department to make sure that we meet compliance with those. We also are maintaining currently our fund balance, which was important because at this point, with $10 million in fund balance for the general fund, that it represents about 1/3 of our annual revenue. Just as an aside, when we were going for funding through our financing for our CIP plan, that was one of the components that allowed us to have the financial rating, the AA negative that we currently have as a municipality, because that is a strong platform for the fund balance for the municipality.
Mm-hmm. And Do you have the percentages of all the taxes that we collect on an annual basis? How much of taxes we do collect?
Well, the audit represents multiple years, so it's not necessarily 1 year's worth of collection, but as an example, for real estate taxes for 2016, we collected about 94% of overall bills that were issued for the municipality for that period.
Okay. Just a last comment. Definitely appreciate what you've done for us over the past couple of years, knowing that we were 7 audits behind. And you and staff did a wonderful job in making this happen for us, no matter what. So thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilmember Perry did touch on part of what I wanted to share. First off, and I did want to make mention of the fact that the financial performance of the organization over the last few years has been exceptional. That is in large part to the work of the various department heads in managing the budgets that they have. We've come in the black for 4 years in a row, and I'm really proud of that fact and the job that the team is doing in making sure that they manage their respective funds. But I also want to make sure that Shanora does get the recognition that she deserves in doing this. Shanora, particularly when it comes to the audit, is a one-person operation leading this team through the audit process. And take it from somebody who came in about to cry in terms of what our audit position was a few years ago. I am extremely appreciative of the work she does in leading the organization through this. And it's a lot of long nights, and I see it. And I appreciate it, and I wanted to go on record as saying, and certainly have it spread across the minute, that Shanora has done a phenomenal job of getting us through yet another audit on time, and to have cleared up, in terms of working with the various departments, all of the issues that have been, some of them have been going on for years in terms of audit findings. I really appreciate the team, and I really appreciate Shanora for leading us through that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Would a member of council like to make a motion to consider the acceptance of the municipality's 2016 financial statement audit report?
So moved.
All in favor? Any nays? Hearing none, the ayes have it. That motion is approved.
Thank you, Madam President and Council.
You're welcome.
And thank you for everyone's continued support. Like Mr. Jones said, it's not a one-person job, so I appreciate the support that I receive throughout the municipality to get this job done. So thank you.
Ms. Burkett, you do have one more item remaining. That's Resolution 17-152.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.
Before you is, for consideration, is Resolution 17152, Capital Improvement Plan for Fire Apparatus Acquisition. It is requested that Municipal Council consider approving this resolution to proceed with the purchase of the fire apparatus. To give a little history, in 2016, Municipal Council approved the Capital Improvement Plan with Resolution 17-106, which included property acquisition, facility renovation, equipment, vehicle acquisition, and park improvements. Also, in 2016, the Municipal Council approved capital improvement funding allocation. Included in that is one of the items that I'm asking for consideration right now. In April 2017, the municipality issued general obligation debt in order to fund the capital improvement plan. So the facts are that the Municipal Council approved the allocation of funds for the fire department vehicle apparatus. The capital improvement plan is funded by the general obligation debt. The procurement procedures comply with the municipal policies, and First Choice Fire Apparatus is a participating co-stars vendor. The fire apparatus quote is for $837,000, and it is presented as co-stars pricing. Delivery is anticipated within approximately 1 year of the date of purchase. This will replace an aged piece of equipment that has been in place for well over 2 decades, I would say at this point, cumulatively for the fire department. What we're asking for is consideration to proceed with the purchase. It has been approved as part of the overall capital improvement plan, but for the specific purpose, we wanted to bring this to council as well for consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Burkett. Councilwoman Brady?
Thank you. I just had a question about what's going to happen with the retired piece of apparatus.
The retiring piece of apparatus we will be bringing to council for permission for disposal in accordance with the procurement policies. That piece of equipment was actually purchased with CDBG funds, so any funds that are obtained as a result of the disposal and or sale of that piece of equipment would be returned to the CDGB program income fund to be utilized for the municipality.
Any other questions? Seeing none, would a member of council like to make a motion for authorization to acquire a new fire apparatus as part of the Norristown's capital improvement plan?
Second.
Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Okay. Livia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Hakeem Jones. Sue Ann Gardner.
Aye.
Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Resolution 17-152 is approved. Next order of business we have is public safety.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolution 17-148 is a disabled parking request. The purpose is to establish handicap parking at 114 West Friedley Street. The applicants there have physical limitations that make this accommodation necessary. No off-street parking is available, and no objections have been expressed by neighbors.
Councilman Jones.
So the disabled, is this the same thing as a handicap parking?
Yes.
Okay, and I had some questions from residents. I think we may have discussed it, but I wanted to know if, as a disabled person with a handicap spot, are you required to have your placard in your window at all times? And if not, what happens to that person who's parked in a handicap spot?
You get a ticket.
Okay. Only because we had some concerns from neighbors and residents, so.
Yeah, so that's something where typically the parking enforcement officers aren't riding around looking for that necessarily. So if a resident sees that, they can give us a call and we'll go out and check it out.
Another issue that was brought to my attention was the street cleaning needs. Some folks who have handicap parking spaces may move their car to the other side for street cleaning, but might refuse to move it back into their handicap spot, which also takes away from neighbors. So.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So that's rude, but it's not a violation of the law.
Councilwoman Scott Cooper.
Yeah, I have a question that I've been thinking about for some time, so this is the appropriate time to ask. If a resident does have their parking spot and there's another vehicle that has a handicap parking, can they park in that spot? Let's say I have one at my house, 1106, and let's say a friend or a neighbor or someone comes by to visit and they also have a placard. Can they park in that spot in front of my house?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I've seen lately where some of these handicap parking spots have the actual address written on So it's for that person, for that house. So I really didn't understand how someone who doesn't live there could really park in that space. I mean, what's the point of having the street number there of that house?
I think it's to let everybody know who is supposed to be in that space, but you really can't give a public parking space to somebody for their own exclusive use.
Okay.
So, you know, another person with a handicap placard or plate could also park there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would a member of council like to make a motion to designate disabled parking space at 114 West Freely Street? Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Hakeem Jones. Sue Ann Gardner. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Resolution number 17-148 is approved. Item B.
Yes, ma'am. So Resolution 17-149 is the Civil Service Police Lieutenant eligibility list. I'm requesting that the position of Police Lieutenant, strike that, I'm sorry. The purpose of this is to establish an eligibility list for the position of Police Lieutenant and provide me with the ability to recommend the best qualified candidate from the list of 3 for the vacancy that is available. In May of 2017, Lieutenant Michael Crescitelli retired, and that position has been vacant since then, and I'd like to fill it with one of the 3 candidates.
Thank you. Any questions? Vice President Perry?
Did we, with your recommendations that you currently have, did we lose any people that you were possibly interested in putting them in this position?
So we didn't lose anybody. That's an interesting question. So the top candidate on the list actually declined to be further considered. So we're actually down to 2 candidates that have expressed a desire to fill the position.
All within already?
Correct.
Councilman Jones?
Have you guys looked outside for appointing that position, or are you working strictly with internal officers right now?
I do not have the ability to look outside the police department for that position.
Would a member of council like to make a motion? I'm sorry.
Thank
Councilwoman
you.
Scott Cooper.
Can you just give us a little brief overview of what constitutes the best qualified? I mean, I know there's a lot of different criteria that go into that, but if you have 2 that you're choosing from, what's going to weigh one over the other?
So I think it's a really good question. So the civil service process itself essentially qualifies candidates and makes them eligible for the position. And as far as I'm concerned, what makes one person more qualified than the other is their demonstrated ability to perform while I've been here as police chief. So if you look at the civil service process as sort of potential ability to lead and giving us a list of candidates, and then looking at actual performance and making a decision from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Would a member of council like to make a motion for the adoption of the Norristown Civil Service Commission's eligibility list of candidates for promotion to lieutenant of the Norristown Police Department? Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Hakeem Jones. Sue Ann Gardner. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Resolution 17-149 is approved.
Okay. So my final resolution, 17-150, entry-level police officers. The purpose is to maintain the current budgeted police department manpower of 67 police officers. We currently have 64 police officers. We have 3 vacancies. In May of this year, we took part in the county's consortium police testing event. There on the memo is a complete listing of how we fared through that process. But just to give an overview, the top 50 applicants were invited to take a physical agility test. Ended up being 55 when we accounted for tie scores. 43 people passed, 3 failed. We had 9 no-shows, which is not uncommon. We had 43 people who were offered oral exams. You can see what happened to many of those candidates. We ended up with 18 candidates. On August 28th, the Civil Service Commission certified a list with the top 6 candidates on it. That list went through a couple of iterations based on some of our candidates getting other offers, and a couple of candidates also withdrew their names. At this point in time, I'm asking that Municipal Council give me the authority to extend 3 conditional offers of employment to the top 3 most qualified candidates.
Vice President Perry.
Now the question needs to come up. All right. So obviously we've been having, I guess, a little bit of problems, and I don't know, this might be for the solicitor. How can we come up with a way that can possibly, instead of us losing people like we've been, and we trust your judgment of who you're gonna pick, or how this goes, could we possibly have special meetings when this comes up, if this ever happens, to get the police officers who we would want or who we should have here at the end of the day, instead of going through one list and then they go somewhere else? What kind of processes could we come up with, Mr. Solicitor, that can make this process a little bit faster? If you have any suggestions.
Yes. As far as suggestions go, unfortunately, as you heard Chief talk about, Norristown takes part in a consortium. There are municipalities throughout southeastern Pennsylvania and Montgomery County specifically that were competing for essentially the same people. Although the chief gets together a good list, we go ahead and pick people. We're always going to be fraught with competition from other police departments. Some of the things, I would trust Chief's judgment on this because he knows the right kind of officer for Norristown. We could, other places consider doing their own tests, whether of that. It's usually not cost effective. And if, Chief felt that he had a particularly good candidate and that person was, committed to Norristown and other place, of course, Chief could request from Crandall a special meeting or moving forward on that, but that's usually not the issue. I face it myself and wearing my other hat as sheriff all the time. I just did a whole testing, and of my top 7 candidates, 5 went to the police departments. So that's what I face. And a lot of it, frankly, is perhaps a financial factor for folks. If neighboring police departments pay a little more, it's tougher for Norristown to compete. So, of course, I gave you no solutions there, really. But I would really rely on Chief if he had, any particular suggestions beyond what I said.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'll take it one step further. You have a lot of people, urban policing is a different type of work. And we've lost a few people to suburban police departments. I'm glad for that, because if you can stand a career in a suburban police department, you probably don't want to come here anyway, and we probably don't want them. So I don't necessarily think that we're limited by the speed. I think it's essentially we get the people that we need to be here. And I tell you that this particular time, the 3 candidates that are high up on our list, I think everybody's going to be really happy about this group. So I think we're in good shape.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Seeing none, would a member of council like to make a motion to approve the Norristown Civil Service Commission resolution and adopt their eligibility list for the hiring of the top 3 entry-level police officers and certifying names for hire. Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Hakeem Jones. Sue Ann Gardner. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Resolution 17-150 is approved. Chief O'Donnell, Resolution 17-151 for the Fire Civil Service Amendment.
Good evening. The intent of the amendment before you is to provide another recruitment and retention tool into the fire department's toolbox by awarding current volunteers in the Norristown Fire Department who take our entry-level firefighter exam and pass all aspects of that examination process. And at the conclusion, they would be awarded 5 points for their volunteer service to our community.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Any questions? Seeing none, would a member of council like to make a motion to amend the rules and regulations of the Norristown Civil Service Commission to allocate additional points on the civil service exam to qualified volunteer firefighters?
So moved.
Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call?
Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Hakeem Jones. Sue Ann Gardner.
Aye.
Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Resolution 17-151 is approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Simonson, Code Enforcement.
Thank you, Madam President. The HARB Certificate of Appropriateness for August of 2017 go as follows. 547 Barbados Street. This is an application revision to change to change a roof to a shingle roof per the specifications of the board. 425 DeKalb Street was approved with conditions to remove the second floor windows and replace them with tongue and roof panels and replace with tall sash windows and install a new cafe entry door. 113 West Penn Street, application was received to remove aluminum windows and install vinyl windows. 653 East Moore Street was to replace vinyl replacement windows with new vinyl replacement windows. 1305 DeKalb Street, application was received to remove paint from brick on the first floor and restore the old door openings that was changed to a window, reset the front steps and maintenance. 121 Haas Ave was approved for the application to receive perform exterior improvements. .526 Noble Street to install new replacement windows. 712 Cone Street was received to restore the front facade of a fire-damaged building. And 1034 Cherry Street was an application to demolish and rebuild a front porch. 707 Cone Street was application to install 2 new windows with white and cap all windows with white capping.
Councilman Jones.
Mr. Simonson, how many of these properties are you knowledgeable are rental properties versus homeowners?
With the information I have here, I do not know which are which.
So I guess my question is just trying to get an idea of when a lot of these HARB updates are being done or being requested, do you see a lot coming from actual homeowners who plan to stay and live in the community, or do you see a lot of requests from landlords and outsiders who are just looking to develop and maybe profit?
Most of the people that go in front of the HARB board are homeowners. They're there to restore their own property, but but second to that would be developers. A lot of the HARB, when developers come in front of the HARB board, it's commercial properties as well, so downtown.
Any other questions? Seeing none, would a member of council like to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for properties that applied for review by the HARB board? All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Seeing none, the ayes have it. The motion is approved. Would a member of council like to make a motion to open the agenda for ordinance 17-14 related to the restrict parking on the 0 block of East Main Street? Public comment?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All of those in favor? Any nays? Hearing none, the ayes have it, and the motion is approved for the open agenda.
Yes, thank you very much. A couple of months ago, I received a request from Chief Judge Thomas Del Ricci to ask Norristown Police to look into what was a matter that he thought was a public safety issue coming out of the parking garage and the line of sight. At that point, I sent an email to Chief Talbot, and he had Officer Rambro look into the matter, which he can give you a brief report. You placed a motion to advertise for this meeting on the last agenda at your workshop meeting.
So, as I discussed on the meeting on the 15th, we did look into it, and the request did make sense. The parking in that location did impede visibility, and we agree that parking should be restricted there.
Any questions? Vice President Perry?
Is the restriction going to be within business hours, or is it going to be an all day, all night thing?
If I might speak to it, council members, in that, as you look at development in the downtown and what's getting ready to happen, ultimately what we're trying to move to is a parking strategy which would be shared parking at night as well. And so if, as we project, there's going to be an increase in nighttime activities, you'll still have the same kind of issues if there's parking on the street, that visibility will be blocked day and night. So if you don't do it, you probably at some point in time will have to come back and reconsider it for nighttime hours as well.
Councilman Jones?
I think it's certainly council's choice to do that, but again, it would just be an administrative issue. If you don't have like nighttime parking now, where there's a large amount of nighttime parking, is probably not going to impact it that much either way. So it would ultimately be a choice of council whether you want to handle it for 24 hours now or just do it for daytime hours. The issue may be, and you can correct me, Sean, if I know that sometimes when there's courts that carry over, that it may be that it might be impacted a little bit later. For instance, if Cosby trial again and there's a lot of stuff going on, it might be a problem that might extend into evening hours and maybe even weekend hours. So.
Councilwoman Lewis?
So I guess just for clarification, the issue is coming out of that parking garage. So at some point, will that parking garage be open for nighttime activities? Because I think that's where the issue is arising, coming out of that and in the line of sight. So is that the possibility that that garage will be open?
I think so, because again, one of the issues involved with the whole courthouse campus redevelopment is that the downtown become destination beyond just court business. So if we're hosting events, et cetera, and we've already, I know myself, Jane, and Madam President, in terms of conversations with county commissioners and staff, have already been talking about that whole issue of shared parking and using it for downtown. They're in their redevelopment plan for downtown are already talking about how can they do commercial development as a part of their development. So I think it certainly will fall in line at some point. That's a strong possibility.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Gardner?
Just so I'm clear, isn't this just one parking spot we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. At this time, we'll accept public comments.
There you go. I'm sitting here observing, just a suggestion. Maybe you guys ought to switch to a toggle switch for your microphones. Everybody having trouble hitting the button to get on there. Just hit a toggle switch and maybe it'll work better.
Okay. Would a member of council like to make a motion to approve ordinance 17-14 for the restricted parking on the 0 block of East Main Street? Madam Secretary, may I please have roll call? Aye. The ayes have it. Ordinance 17-14 is approved. At this time, would a member of council like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? All in favor? The ayes have it. Motion is approved.